Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the third week of September 2020. The third week. And you know what that means? It means it's the third week of September.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't know if it was W-E-E-K or W-E-A-K.
Well, it's both, because you know what? Summer is really over. We had ice this morning. I had to take all the plants in last night, pull all the vegetables out of the garden. And maybe you wanted to lock me out, leave me out, and say, let's see what happens when you freeze.
No, I did do that.
Yeah, you did. I know. But I defrosted.
But you didn't freeze.
Nobody knows what I actually have to go through. And you actually made me stay outside with a mask that froze onto my mouth. And that was not nice of you.
Well, it's only because I sprayed it with water first before you put it on.
I know what you did. I know what you did. So, anyway, speaking of things that are not nice, let's talk about China. Because Beijing's health chief, now this is very fascinating, they said that China will not have mass vaccinations on the population for the COVID-19. And do you know why? Because they said that it's been wiped out of the country. Now this is where it started, and they don't have it anymore. Everybody else has it, but not China. Something funny with that story, don't you think? So the director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Gao Fu, said...
And you're not going to make fun of his name?
Wait. Said that the vaccine would only be needed if there's another major outbreak, which means maybe they're planning to release something else into the population. Now, here's the thing. Now, I want you to pay attention. China is a country of 1.3 billion people, and they only had 90,000 infections and only 4,700 deaths. Does that make any sense to you? So how can a country like the United States, which has about 350 million people, basically 1/4 of China's population, and the United States has over 200,000 people dead? It doesn't make sense.
Well, CDC changed that.
Well, but I'm just saying, even though the CDC changed it, they're still saying there's a pandemic.
Well, that I don't understand.
How could there be a pandemic in a country, for example, of 1.3 plus billion people and only 4,700 deaths? That's not a pandemic.
No.
That's not even flu.
No.
So something very funny going on here, and that's because U.S. numbers are fake, and this whole corona thing is fake, and I think we're going to find that out pretty soon. Now, despite all of that, Dr. Gao Fu said that China's first coronavirus vaccine could be ready by now, September.
I don't know why they need a vaccine.
So that they can sell it and make cajillions of dollars across the planet. Just like they started this epidemic, and then they started selling masks and ventilators and gloves, and China made trillions of dollars off of that. So now here's the interesting part. Last month, Dr. Gao Fu revealed that he had been injected with an experimental coronavirus vaccine. And he said, now here's the thing, he said he did that to himself in an attempt to persuade the public to follow suit when it is approved. Now he said persuade, not mandatory. So even in China, they're not saying that the vaccine is mandatory. They just want to persuade you.
Well, even if it's mandatory, there are going to be a lot of people who want it. So in China, if they want to give you a vaccine, they're just going to hold you down and that's the end of it. You got a vaccine.
No, they probably, tell the people, you want a vaccine? We got for this kind, that kind, we got all. What you want? See, that's the face. I love that face. I do it on purpose just for the face. Now, the vaccine is an inactivated vaccine, which means they take a whole virus in a lab and kill it. And then they put it into a vaccine. So it's a dead virus that your body reacts to. So you want something dead injected into you? No. And so this is created by the state-owned Sinopharm, which I guess is their government-operated virus lab, I guess. So based on this information, there's no pandemic in China, where it all began. And that also should mean that there's no pandemic in the United States or the EU or anywhere else.
That much I know.
So again, people, scamdemic. And there's a lot of fake information going on. But, President Trump said recently that in October, they will have a free vaccine for anyone who wants it, also who wants it, not mandatory. So that's very good news. Now, speaking of things that are fake and should be eliminated, let's talk about Nancy Pants Pelosi. Nancy Pants is facing a rebellion in the House of Congress because of she abandoned the stimulus bill that was supposed to give people money during this whole thing. And because of that, she may not be able to hold all her people together. And so someone posted on, I believe this is either Instagram or Twitter, and I'm going to just quote this because it makes a lot of sense. Quote, "It's time to stop playing games with the American people's well-being." This is to Nancy Pants. "While you sit in a multi-million-dollar home eating gourmet gelato out of a $20,000 Sub-Zero freezer."
Did you put that out there?
I'm reading it's on
I know, I
Twitter.
thought maybe you put it on there.
Well, I may have had another name on Twitter and put it.
That's what
We
I'm
don't know.
thinking.
I'm all aflutter with Twitter. We don't know. People are hungry and they're being evicted and they need help. Now, here's what I like what he said. "Stop being a selfish cow and sign the stimulus bill." Is she a cow? She's an old rag. I wouldn't that's an insult to cows.
I think so.
I think so too. She's just an old rag. And she needs to go
That's
back.
an insult to rags.
And she needs to go back in her tomb
It's an insult to tombs.
with other vampires.
An insult to vampires.
So my opinion is her time is over. And now that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead, ding dong, the witch is dead.
I was thinking, yay.
So the old guard is disappearing. And you know who else needs to go? Biden. Bye, Biden. Bye. He needs to go. And speaking of Biden, when you enter Antifa.com onto the internet, it takes you directly to the JoeBiden.com campaign donation page. And if you donate to the Black Lives Matter on the BlackLivesMatter.com website, then the money goes to Act Blue, which is a Democratic fundraising apparatus. I've told you this a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
So how can Joe Biden say that he condemns the violence and rioting that Soros-funded Antifa groups and Black Lives Matter have spread across the country when he is the benefactor of their money? And he actually supports Antifa. And
Well, they're peaceful protests according to the
right,
Democrats.
right.
So.
It's very peaceful to burn buildings down and throw bricks through windows.
And hurt
But if we
people.
have a Trump rally, that's dangerous and will spread the coronavirus. Remember, well, actually, the same George Soros-funded Antifa groups and Black Lives Matter operations are simultaneously burning down city after city across America in an attempt to destroy the United States. Remember that the BLM is an openly Marxist and virulently anti-capitalist group. Antifa is openly anarchist and use brutal fascist tactics of intimidation and violence in a cynical quest to vanquish fascism, and they are fascists, and Western capitalism, and they are actually a wing of the Democratic Party.
You wait till I tell you what information I have, just a little bit.
Ooh, and you know what?
It's worse than that.
No, it's not
Yes,
possible.
it is. I will tell you that. It's worse. So just
And I have to put
hold
plugs in
your
my
horses
ears.
until
and
it's
have
my
to-
turn.
But I want you to be careful what you say because there's a child present.
She's not a
They
child.
need to stop flying airplanes and only swim in the ocean and use a rowboat to go to Europe.
She took an ocean liner.
She was in a rowboat.
No, she crossed the Atlantic. She took from when she got here.
Only when the cameras were off.
Ah.
Yeah. Then she was eating caviar and all kinds of things like that. Greta needs to go back to school, but first needs to be paddled. Was that child abuse?
That would be child abuse.
Oh well. But she's a demon, so she's not really a child. Anyway, so they are laundering money to the Democratic Party, this Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And they have their left-wing allies in Biden and the Democrats. And electing Joe Biden and Skamala Harris will finish the work of destroying America and turning it into a socialist country. But let me tell you something. It's not going to be a socialist country. It's not going to be a communist country. Because as you know, my family comes from a communist country. and my family are communist, and I don't like them. But despite all of that, when people talk about socialism and communism and there is revolutions and they're going to make people free and give everybody what they need, that is a scam. Because in every so-called communist country that ever existed and does exist, once the communists take over, you know what happens? It becomes a totalitarian dictatorship. There's no more communism because that's just to get people to vote and do what they want. And then they put people in chains worse than they ever had before. And take it from me, because my family started the Communist Party in Soviet Union. Anyway, the alliance of Black Lives Matter with Soros elected prosecutors in St. Louis, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, and Chicago and other places. And then they could commit crimes, do violence, criminal acts. Then if they are arrested, they're never charged and they're released. They eliminate the cash bail, defund the police, and then they start the violence all over again. So there's an unholy alliance between the Democratic Party, George Soros, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter, which is deliberately destroying America and all the cities. Now, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's staff contributed and openly supported bailing out the rioters who were violent in Minneapolis. And also people should know that many of the Fortune 500 companies have given hundreds of millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter organizations, which I don't understand, because if the communists and the socialists take over, guess what's going to happen to those Fortune 500 companies? They're going to be dissolved. So I don't understand why they're supporting them, unless what they're doing is taking all the money out of them now, bankrupting them, and then doesn't matter what happens.
I'm going to tell you when you get to my stories.
Well, better not be better than my story. And so, the question is, why are white radicals from the West Coast burning down black-owned businesses in Kenosha, Wisconsin? They're destroying the businesses of the people they said they're trying to protect. Who is funding the airfares and the hotel bills for traveling bands of anarchists and professional rioters? And they are professional rioters. They're being paid for everything that they do. Joe Biden says one thing in public, but secretly is seeking and receiving support from Antifa. So I'm going to just reiterate that President Trump recently stated that if there's any violence on election day, it will be quickly stopped. And so my question to him is, and I know that his people watch this podcast, it needs to be stopped now. Why are you going to wait till election day? It may be too late by then. I'm asking you to stop it now.
It's already too late for a lot of people.
Yes. Now, let's go to the Middle East. You want to go to the Middle East?
No.
Well, I already got your ticket. Just you, one way. Bye. That's for leaving me out in the freezing cold last night, okay? Anyway, you know that Israel is being now recognized by all these Muslim countries. And guess who they said could be the next one?
Who?
Pakistan.
I heard that, yes.
That's really
amazing.
unbelievable because they're so anti-Israel, but it says Pakistan could be next to normalized ties with Israel, according to British Pakistani analyst Noor Dari, who says that also Oman, Sudan, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia are also likely to follow the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, which have established relationships with them. And they also said that Qatar would also join the peace agreement sooner or later. And this is something I didn't know. This was actually shocking news to me. And it said that Pakistan and Israel have had intelligence and military relations for decades. I was like, what?
But that's the reason, because they put on this show for the people to keep
Well,
them divided, but behind the scenes, it's all one world government.
It's not nice to fool Daddy Stewart. If you have relationships with somebody, I need to know. Also, guess who else? Excuse me, I'm not ready for your promo. Put the book down right now, okay?
You want to know about relationships, Heights of Relationships, my new release. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I should have a chapter in there about how I have my relationships.
I have a whole book
on
about
me?
you in
Get
there.
out of here.
Yes.
You did not get authorization for that.
I don't need authorization.
I'm calling my lawyer after this. Of course, I don't have a lawyer, but I'll make believe. Also, the other countries, Djibouti, Comoros, and Mali. Do you know where Comoros is?
Where?
It's a group of islands off the east coast of Africa, south of the Seychelles.
So they're going to join everybody.
Yes, with establishing diplomatic relations with Israel. And you know why all of this is happening, people? Because it's a preparation, as I told you, for the third temple.
And of course, all of that is written about Revelations, King B, more Revelations, Template of God Mind, and the best book of all, Heights of Spirituality.
Yeah, because I'm not in that one either, am I?
Yeah. So we got all kinds of things here to help you understand what's going on in the world.
Now, let's go a little bit closer to home. Again, all the news about the weather and global warming and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? A Category 2 hurricane this past week was a slow-moving storm that went over Florida and Alabama and even parts of Mississippi. Pensacola, Florida was very badly hit, and the Bay Bridge was damaged. And they said there was catastrophic and life-threatening flooding which continues over portions of Florida Panhandle and southern Alabama. Can't sit on your porch with a mint julep when that's going on. And it said it brought 4 months of rain in 4 hours.
I saw that.
That's a lot of rain. And the hurricane is named Sally, so all of you named Sally, shame on you.
How about Sally Forth?
Well, Sally made landfall in Gulf Shores, Alabama, with 105 mile per hour winds, and that's 169 kilometers per hour for all of my European and Asian friends. It's a Category 2, which is extremely dangerous winds and usually causes damage to homes and shallowly rooted trees. Well, Sally has characteristics that have not been seen very often, and that it's slow forward speed, which causes exacerbated flooding.
But the thing is, think of the name Sally, because it used to be people said if they sallied around, it was like a slow walk. So you would sally. So they already knew when they named this what was going to happen because it's controlled.
Sally has friends. You know why?
Why?
Because there are 4 other tropical cyclones, or really, they're tropical storms that will become hurricanes. Here's the thing, people, because I used to study media. I actually was an observer for the National Weather Service at one point.
Because you have done everything.
Right. And of course, so I missed a few tornadoes. Big freaking deal, okay? Anyway, in the North Atlantic, they're called hurricanes, and the Gulf. In the Pacific, they're called typhoons, and in the Indian Ocean, they're called cyclones. But they're all the same thing. So obviously, whoever wrote this was from India, because they call it a cyclone. But anyway, these tropical storms in the Atlantic are Paulette, Renee, Teddy, and Vicky, which are swirling around the Atlantic Ocean. So it looks like Teddy's having some fun with some 3 lady friends out there.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, it's the same thing. They named them because they know what they're going to do.
It must have pissed off Sally, because she I'm out of here, and then she hit the Alabama.
She was sallying around.
I'll tell you what. But guess what? If one more storm is officially named, Wilfred has been chosen, and meteorologists after that have run out of pre-selected names.
I don't believe that.
And so for the rest of the year, if there's any more, they're going to use the Greek alphabet.
That's weird.
So that after Wilfred, there'll be Hurricane Alpha and something like that.
That's interesting.
So the Earth is very angry. It's pissed off, and I don't blame it. And speaking of the weather, there have been heavy frosts and record-breaking cold through parts of Canada and the eastern half of the United States, which we had today. And there are frost advisories now for Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and Ontario. And of course, there's already been heavy snow in the Rockies, which I reported on last week. And you reported or read once that the rain-snow line is moving slowly towards Michigan.
Did I?
You said that a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, there's also snow, guess where? In Scotland. Across Scotland at a very high elevation, and there are very high winds. And it's actually, according to this, They said meteorological summer is barely over, and a dusting of rare early September snow has blanketed the tippy top of Ben Nevis, Scotland. So
Tippy top.
I don't know who Ben Nevis is, but apparently his head is covered in snow.
And it's a tippy top.
Yeah, his very tippy top of his head is now covered in snow, so Ben needs to just, go
You
inside.
have to say that in a Scottish accent.
I would love to.
Tippy top.
And my name's Stuart is Scottish. Did you
Yeah.
know it?
Yeah.
Anyway, besides all of that, there's information that said that cold times are returning to the mid-latitudes, which are refreezing in a historically low solar activity and cloud, and I like this word, nucleating cosmic rays and a meridional jet stream flow. What's a meridional jet
Must
stream?
be the meridians go this way.
Okay, you don't know, so
This
forget
way.
about listening
So
to.
that's the longitude. That's the latitude.
And there was also, guess where? Snow is forecast to fall 500 meters in parts of the South Island of New Zealand. And they said that, guess where? Stewart Island, even spelled like my name, Stewart Island, had gusts of 135 kilometers per hour, with heavy snow down to 500 meters in parts of the Southland, including inland from Dunedin. Dunedin is a city on the east coast of the South Island of New Zealand. And there's even an avalanche risk with this wind and snow. So all the heavy storms are also reported in South America. I told you that there's even snow in Brazil, which is very unusual. And I do have more information, but we'll keep that towards the end. But I just want to say that does have to do with our AO scanner, which is interesting because I found out what AO means. Know what it means?
What?
Alpha Omega.
Oh, that's interesting. And they're going to name those storms Alpha Omega.
Yes, and we have had great success so far with our device.
Yes. So I want to remind everybody about my new Heights of Relationships book. Just arrived via freight truck today. The pre-published price will go through the end of September. People are already ordering. So just in case I sell out the first printing, you better get your orders in. And that is it follows on the True Reality of Sexuality. So you can add this on and make a package. Or if you already have True Reality of Sexuality, you can get this. And True Reality of Sexuality also goes with our Say No to Mind Control package, 13 cubes squared, 13 cubed, and Heights of Deprogramming, along with this one. So we have everything that will help you, body, mind, and soul, say no to mind control. Right? So now I want to go on with my interesting, fascinating news. Attorney General William P. Barr is constantly in the news. And
Good.
now he told federal prosecutors to charge violent demonstrators with a range of offenses, including sedition. Do you know what that means?
It means that they were sitting when they did a violent crime.
It means that it's usually reserved for somebody who's plotting to overthrow the government.
Aha. So it's different than treason.
Yes, sedition. So, citing people familiar with the conversation, the Wall Street Journal reported that Mr. Barr issued the instructions in a conference with U.S. attorneys across the country.
But are they going to do it?
Also, he warned that the violent protests across the country could get worse as the election day approaches.
Well,
Duh.
They said so. The Democrats said they
Yeah.
would.
So now he's urging the prosecutors to consider a number of federal counts when they're lodging charges, including sedition. And he urged the prosecutors to file these charges whenever possible because that gives the federal government authority to take care of it rather than the states who are just letting these people go. Now, interestingly, Attorney General Barr is also said to be exploring criminal charges for Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan
Good.
over the CHOP situation,
That's good.
Capitol Hill occupied protests. Now, what's interesting is that the New York Times reported this story according to people who are familiar with the conversation. However, guess what? Mayor Durkin addressed the Times report and says she doesn't believe that that's happening.
Well, I hope they put her away with the handcuffs, and then she'll believe it.
Now, she is now blaming Trump for all the problems that are happening in Seattle.
Are you kidding me?
And said the Department of Justice cannot become a political weapon operated at the behest of the president. This is an act of tyranny and not of democracy.
Hello, the president is in charge of the country, and yes, he can do
So
it.
this was very interesting to me that some people are saying it is.
What about the mayor of Portland? He should also be
Well, they
arrested.
don't talk about that. And the Seattle business are saying that nothing was done about Trump until it affected the officials. Then they started tearing it down.
Right.
So this is a tactic that's being used all over the place. The Democrats are doing one thing, but then they're turning around and blaming the Republicans. So they're doing it and they're pointing the finger elsewhere.
You know what, people? Just cut it out and arrest all the people who did this, and that's the end of it.
Now, former New York Police Department Commissioner Bernie Kerik said state and city officials must step in and re-administer law and order. He's also asking for the U.S. Justice Department to stop nationwide unrest caused by Black Lives Matter. Kerik says every one of the city and state officials are responsible for allowing this stuff to happen. You're going to love this guy. He says blocking vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic is a crime. Resisting arrest is a crime. Obstructing justice is a crime. Assault on cops is a crime. Every single person on the George Washington Bridge in New York City, I don't know if you know, they stopped that.
I saw that.
Should have been arrested. And then he drew a parallel from today's movement to those of the 70s and 80s, mentioning groups like the Black Liberation Army, the Black Panther Party, and he claims it's the same leaders responsible for assassinating almost 24 police officers over 10 years ago are still involved now. He says a majority of the American public and organizations that are pushing to elevate Black Lives Matter must be educated on the reality. Do you know why?
Tell me.
He says, I think you have to educate the American public because they're stupid.
That's what I said.
This.
I said
you're gonna
there's
love this
stupid
guy.
people out there.
He said they have no conception of what the organization stands for. They have no conception of who the leaders are, how they were inspired, what they believe. They have no idea. So the bottom line is you have to educate the American public on what the reality is.
You can't educate stupid.
He said this is an anti-government, anti-police, Marxist movement that people are supporting because they're ignorant.
How many times have I said this?
Now listen to this. This is what gets interesting. Black Lives Matter co-founder fundraising for pro-communist Chinese party. Did you see that?
Yes, they pay for all of it.
Alicia Garza, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, was named as a cohort as a trained Marxist, appears to be openly fundraising for a group with open affiliations with the Chinese Communist Party. This is who the Black Lives Matter people are supporting, the Chinese Communist Party.
Exactly. And the Chinese are supporting the Democratic Party.
Now, the Patrice Cullors, another co-founder of Black Lives Matter, made this interesting revelation as to how she and Garza had been trained in an interview back in 2015. She said, the first thing I think of is that we actually do have an ideology frame. Myself and Alicia Garza in particular are trained organizers. This is what she said. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on ideological theories. And what we really try to do is build a movement that can be utilized by many, many black folk. I don't know how because they're burning down their businesses.
Right.
Now, Garza, it appears, is fundraising for the Chinese Progressive Association, the CPA. If you go to the website for Black Futures Lab, a Garza venture, and you click the donate button, you are invited to choose the amount you'd like to send to the Chinese Progressive Association. This is what I'm telling you, is more interesting than the Democrats.
I'm not surprised.
So apparently the Black Futures Lab is a fiscally sponsored project of the Chinese Progressive Association, founded in San Francisco in the 70s and continues with an active chapter in Boston today. It was part of the Marxist Asian American movement of its founding era and has always been vocally supportive of the People's Republic of China and their ideological vision. The CPA began as a leftist, pro-People's Republic of China organization promoting awareness of mainland China's revolutionary thought and workers' rights, dedicated to self-determination, community control, and serving the people. The organization worked with other PRC groups within the U.S. and San Francisco Bay Area. Support for the PRC was based on the inspiration that members drew from what they saw as successful grassroots model that presented a viable alternative to Western capitalism. The CPA remains a partner of the PRC in the U.S. They were responsible for the raising of the PRC flag over Boston City Hall to honor the Communist Party takeover in China.
Who allowed that?
The city of Boston did. They allowed the group, to raise their flag, but they denied the camp constitution to fly the Christian flag. So the Boston City Hall allowed them to do it.
That's criminal.
It's clear that the CPA works with China's communist government, pushes its agenda here in the U.S., and is regularly praised by China's state-owned mouthpieces. It is clear from this perspective why the CPA would sponsor a new enterprise by Garza, Black Lives Matter co-founder. They espouse the same desire for world communism. So
That tells me people in Boston are really stupid.
and that's why I'm saying it's not beyond the Democratic Party when you start donating to Black Lives Matter. It's that, and now here we go, direct tie to communist China. Now it gets worse, in my opinion, believe it or not. And this is an interview done by co-founder of Black Lives Matter, Patrisse Cullors, along with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles co-founder Melinda Abdullah. They discussed, apparently, that Black Lives Matter, they're claiming, has a spiritual component.
Really? Like demonic spiritual?
Yes, she said that they explained the practices and rituals performed and they invoked the spirits of deceased African Americans. We speak their names, you invoke the spirit, and their spirits actually become present with you, said Abdullah, who is a professor at California
Isn't it
State
like a
University.
seance?
No, what they do is they invoke them and they want them to work with them. So they take all the people who they claim were wrongfully killed, and of course, obviously, then angry, and they ask them to work in and through them during all these rituals that they do. And they're talking about this in this article.
So it's astral.
It's astral stuff that they're doing, and which exactly what you've talked about, and we've been talking about demonic activity is what they're invoking.
And now they're admitting it.
They're admitting it, and apparently in 2018, Abdullah performed this ritual at Hollywood United Methodist Church. They allowed her to do that. And as she did her ritual, she told the congregation to declare Ashe. And Ashe means so be it, which is an African philosophical concept, which the Yoruba of Nigeria conceive the power to make things happen and produce change. It's associated with the power of speech, as can be seen in its meaning of command, ordain, and law. And they also believe that the men possess the power to speak things into existence. So they summon the spirits that are still with us. We summon those people whose bodies have been stolen, but whose lives are still here. We call on people like Waukesha Wilson, George Jackson, Eric Garner, all of those whose bodies have been stolen. We ask that they be with us. We ask that they work through them. And we ask that they do righteous work.
So they
whatever that
want
means.
them to have possession.
Yes. When we first started, we went to the ocean and we did these rituals and we fed our spirit. So they're telling you that they're invoking astral entities to work in and through them on top of everything else they're doing.
Although this will be very controversial, and it's me. These people who were shot by the police, they were hoodlums.
Yes.
They were rapists.
Yes.
They were murderers. They
Yes.
were robbers. They attacked the police.
Right.
The police had every right to shoot them.
That's right. And the innocent people...
They're not to be honored.
The innocent people, all the children who were shot, all these things, these people are not being honored. Those people are, and they're doing huge funerals, and they're giving them all the kind of funerals that you would give to a state person, to hoodlums. These are the people that they want.
And by the way, 91% of all the people that are shot by the police are white.
Yes, we've given the statistics before, but it's true. And right now, black on black crime and shootings
Black
and
people
killings.
kill black people more than anybody else
Yes,
does.
and because of this, it's just gone through the roof. I do have a piece of good news here.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, a federal judge in Pittsburgh says that Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf and State Health Secretary Dr. Rachel Levine had good intentions to protect people from the coronavirus, but their orders went too far. The judge ruled in a court order that Wolf's closing of non-life-sustaining businesses and restrictions on gatherings during the COVID-19 pandemic were unconstitutional. He says, this judge, you cannot tell 13 million Pennsylvanians they have to stay home. That's not America. You
Right.
can't. Let's see. That order was horrible. He goes on to rule that the state posed limits on gatherings violated the First Amendment, and the stay-at-home and business closing orders violated the 14th Amendment, which you talked about in the last podcast in detail. He also wrote that in his ruling that the Wolf administration's pandemic policies have been overreaching, arbitrary, and violated citizens' constitutional rights. Now, the attorney for the plaintiff says this ruling stands for the proposition that even in a pandemic, the citizens' constitutional right, the citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania do not forfeit their constitutionally protected rights. The judge is saying if you own a business, the governor and the health secretary cannot shut it down. That never again will Pennsylvanians be under these circumstances be told to stay home with the fear of arrest or threats of loss of license. He's also thrown out this nonsense that was the orders that had to do with life-sustaining or non-life-sustaining businesses picking and choosing winners, which we saw. That's why Amazon and all those people gained billions and billions of dollars in a very few months, while the small business owners were burned down their businesses and they were out of business, most of them like 60% forever. Mm-hmm. The governor's press secretary said that the Wolf administration is disappointed, and so they're going to seek a stay of the decision and file an appeal. Now, the judge also wrote, and I like this, the judge also wrote, the liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms in place when times are good, but able to be cast aside in times of trouble. There is no question that this country has faced and will face emergencies of every sort. But the solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as the foundation of the American experiment.
Right, and we're doing the same thing here in Michigan and Unlock Michigan.
Well, hopefully
movement.
this will set a precedence
Yes.
for everything else, so everybody else
And the
can.
governor, however, in Michigan, now that we have all the signatures and it's going through, our evil Whitmer governor cannot veto it.
No,
She has to.
correct.
It's done.
Well, it's
She's
done.
done.
It has nothing to do with her. The judge goes on to write, the Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to open-ended emergency mitigation measures. Rather, the Constitution sets certain lines that may not be crossed even in an emergency. Actions taken by defendants cross those lines. It is the duty of the court to declare those actions unconstitutional. So, and then it says that Wolf has since lifted many of the restrictions allowing businesses to reopen and canceling a statewide stay-at-home order, which he has to because of the ruling until they seek this stay of
He can't
whatever.
win. He will not win. And by the way, somebody sent me an image. It's in German, but it shows how in the 1800s they used to make the slaves wear those face
Oh
masks.
yeah, I've seen that. That's not
And so that's what this is all about. It has
Right.
nothing to do with the virus. It has to make you feel like a slave. And Attorney General Barr just the other day said that what has happened is a complete disgrace to freedom
Yes.
and constitutional rights. And he said it's just like slavery.
Yes.
And so that's coming up now.
Absolutely. Now in Australia, Victoria. Now this is also horrible what's going on there. There's now a proposal to allow police to preemptively lock up those they believe might violate the coronavirus lockdown measures.
So how do they determine that?
Well, apparently this is now before the Victoria State Parliament, and if it's passed, the law would allow police to indefinitely detain any Victoria resident who either tests positive for COVID-19 or is close contact of somebody who has, as long as the officer believes they are likely to refuse or fail to comply with quarantine regulations. How are they going to determine
But
this?
they cannot deter. That should be illegal.
And then not only that, but it says that this law that's not passed yet, but it would allow the state's departmental secretary to appoint any public servant they consider appropriate to exercise the new pre-crime, they call this pre-crime detention powers, based on the person's personal judgment.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. The legislation extends many of Victoria's emergency provisions until next April. April 2021. That meaning the police, even if the pandemic goes away, The police and all they say their newly appointed civilian cronies would retain their pre-crime powers.
That's terrible. And first of all, Australia, you are a country of criminals. Rise up against these authorities.
It's terrible.
Because you're making you worse than slaves.
Mentally ill, drug addicted, homeless Victoria residents can be confined in hotels for 2 weeks as a precaution under the proposed law. And what I've told you is who's keeping track of the mentally ill, the drug addicted, homeless. These are the people they're going to take and they're going to put into the sex slave trade, the human trafficking, and they're going to experiment on, and nobody's going to miss them. So that's why they're doing it. They're calling this actually wrongthink. Wrongthink social media postings have been used by Victoria Police as a rationale for detaining otherwise innocent Australians, and one that's been all over the internet is of a pregnant mother of 2 who posted about a protest. She didn't go, she didn't do anything. It was supposed to be a peaceful protest. She posted it on her Facebook page, and the police went to her and arrested her in front of her children.
For what?
For pre-crime. And
the Australian government allows this?
Yes, they
They're
said...
worse than Nazis.
It says police have been given permission to enter homes without a warrant and do this kind of thing.
Australia? Are you allowing this?
They hauled her off in handcuffs.
How can you... This is...
And they have her on camera begging the police not to do it if she would promise she would take down her Facebook post, and they took her anyway.
I hope that those police burn in hell forever.
It says that Victoria has only reported 750 deaths since February. And probably most of that is not true anyway.
Garbage anyway.
Yeah, so despite the relatively low numbers compared to other countries around the world, they have a 6-month extension on their pandemic orders. It's ridiculous.
There's something else going on there.
Yeah. Now, back here to the U.S., San Francisco. It's always got crazy things going on.
And guess who lives there? Nancy Pants.
Now they're saying San Francisco may become the first major U.S. city to allow 16-year-olds to vote.
16?
16.
First of all, that's federally illegal.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They said in November, residents will vote if 16 and 17-year-olds will be allowed to vote in future, they can say local elections.
Why don't you get infants to vote too?
They probably would if
maybe
they could.
fetuses.
And once, of course, one city does it, then, what's going to happen? The rest of the cities are going to try.
President Trump will not allow this.
So, Kamala Harris, you might have heard this one.
Scamala.
Oh, how about Kamala? Or Camel, whatever we want to do. Anyway, she accidentally, I'll put that in quotes loosely, refers to the Harris administration during a virtual roundtable while discussing economic plans.
Yeah, because she knows that Biden is not going to make it.
She said, a Harris administration, then she goes on, together with Joe Biden as the president of the United States. Well, yeah. And then Biden also referred to the ticket as the Harris-Biden administration. Shortly after that.
He's senile, anyway.
And of course, Trump calls Biden a Trojan horse for socialism, which is, I think, it's more for communism.
The best thing is when I saw a video of him getting off of a plane, and he's waving, and then the camera pans, and there's an empty tarmac. There's nobody there. He's waving to nobody.
Yeah. And then, of course, Hunter Biden, the son.
Where's he?
Well,
He disappeared.
It says now there's new information out because this particular article talks about foreign entities looking to influence American politics. So they have lucrative business deals for the politician's family. So apparently now it came out that Hunter made 411 trips across 29 countries between 2009 and 2014. That's
and
a
who
lot
paid
of trips.
for that?
So obviously, some of it they said aboard the Air Force too. So in December 2013, he made an official visit with Chinese officials, and then 10 days later, surprise, he and his associates partnered with the state-owned Bank of China to formally establish BHR, a new, first-of-its-kind fund aimed at making investments outside of China through the newly established Shanghai Free Trade Zone. So now it says the most troubling aspect of Hunter's relationship with foreign entities is that his largest partner overseas appears to be, guess who? The Chinese government.
No, not Ukraine.
No, that's in there too, but the Chinese government is the biggest partner. That's why they're trying to push all this in, like you're saying about the democratic funding and all this, because the money's going to China. So when those Fortune 500 companies have got their ties to China with billions of people they can move there and buy their products. So that's how it all ties together.
They need to put a fence around China.
Now, apparently Peter Schweitzer has made a new film called Riding the Dragon, The Biden's Chinese Secrets. So you can look that one up, but I have not seen it, but this is the man who's promoting what's going on with the Biden. And now this was kind of interesting because there's a Trump-appointed Health and Human Services spokesperson named Michael Caputo. He's a top communications official, and on a live Facebook stream, he said, "They're going to have to kill me, and unfortunately, I think that's where this is going. When Donald Trump refuses to stand down at the inauguration, the shooting will begin." He said, "The drills you have seen are nothing. If you carry guns, buy ammunition, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be hard to get." Then he blasted the government scientists deep in the bowels of the CDC who have given up science and become political animals who haven't gotten out of their sweatpants except for meetings at coffee shops. And then it goes on to say that Caputo is an associate of longtime informal Trump advisor Roger Stone, who provided his own violent imageries about what could be in store during after the election. And Stone says that Trump should consider imposing martial law.
I agree.
Or invoke the Insurrection Act.
Yes.
If results show he loses the election, because he said the ballots in Nevada on election night should be seized by federal marshals, taken from the state.
It's all fraud.
Because the ballots are completely corrupted and we can prove voter fraud in the absentees right now. I read one article where they arrested a man who 1,700 ballots were attributed to him already, absentee ballots.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you'll love this story as well. This is actually about the Queen. Did you know the Queen and Prince Charles have been ordered to pay back millions of dollars to the British taxpayers amid fury at the cost of the monarchy? So,
what country in this day and age should have a monarchy?
I agree. And you know what else? You remember now, Meghan and Harry, they had to repay to the people for their Frogmore Cottage
but
thing.
they got a $200 million deal.
Yeah, something like that. But, of course, there's a lot of controversy over that because of that Cuties film, the pornographic thing that Netflix did. So that's also...
How surprising that is.
And Kate and William have been now under scrutiny for their expenditures. And guess what Barbados is doing? Did you see that?
Yes, they left the Commonwealth.
Yes, they're removing Queen Elizabeth II.
Good for you, Barbados.
Yes, and they said that the Governor General, Dame Sandra Mason, said the time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind. Barbadians want a Barbadian head of state. So that's the first step. So, so they're attacking the monarchy on all levels.
It shouldn't
so that's
exist
gonna come
anymore.
down. It's on its way down.
I tell you what, Barbados is smarter than Australia.
So I don't know what's going on everywhere. It's disgusting. Now this is also, which I personally don't believe, but because it's out there, I'm just going to report it, that there's a Moscow-based security firm that commissioned a poll on body upgrades or body augmentation using cyborg things.
Yeah.
So it says that 2/3 of Western Europeans would consider upgrading their bodies with technology. But then they went on to say, well, mostly for health benefits. But the thing is they're putting it out there. And then in Japan, they said they have 7-foot-tall robots that are controlled by humans using virtual reality systems to stock their convenience stores. So
that's like that movie that we saw with the blue people. There was a human in a container, and he was mentally controlling one of the creatures.
Yes, I remember that. So they're talking about doing that. But the other thing that I read, but I don't know what you think about this, but they're talking about one of the reasons they want to defund the police is because they want to put in AI police.
The first thing Hitler did was defund the police.
Yeah, well, we know that, but if they have AI robots, that would just go out and kill because somebody is behind the screen controlling them. Who knows?
Those of you who know that I used to follow a lot Serial Brain 2, and then he kind of vanished, but then he came back. And he had very good information, which I've sent out to some people that I know. And Serial Brain 2 said, there's people that kneel in the flag, and they take the knee. That is from the ancient Egyptian god that was holding up the sun on his knee. Shu, the god name was Shu.
What's the point of that?
Because it's reptilian. It's a reptilian religion.
Well, that
they worship the sun.
Yeah, no, it's terrible things that's going on out there right now. As you know, in fact, when people a long time ago, I can't remember the name, but one of the football players wanted to kneel to because of Christianity. I can't remember. They said you can't show your faith on the field.
You know what? If you cannot support the United States and the flag, and you're making so much money in professional sports,
Right.
leave the effing country and go live in Somalia
Right.
and then see what you think.
And we've talked about this before, that a lot of them are black, that
Most of them
who are in
and
the
the
sports.
stupid white boys that follow along with them, they're just, I'm telling you, people are really stupid. Those Americans are stupid people.
They need to go live
It's
in
the
other
truth.
countries if they don't
That's
want
right.
to be here.
They don't like it, go,
That's
leave.
right. And remember, they're changing our history right in front of you. So Montauk Alien Connections, Stewart's autobiography, True World History, amazing information, and galactic history. Because you need to know your history, and then you'll understand why they're doing what they're doing to
All
you
those
now.
people that support Biden and the communists, the socialists, I want you to spend 3 days in Cuba. I want you to spend 3 days in China.
How about
And
Venezuela?
Or Venezuela, and then see what you think.
Yeah, it's not pretty there, trust me. So, Heights of Relationship, that's our newest book that's out. Be sure that you order this. The pre-published price is good until October 1st. I didn't bring them with me, but I do have, remember, the coloring books that are for adults and children that are really amazing. We have that for gift giving, if for your organizations, wonderful opportunity. We have all our healing books, Heights of Health, and Alternative Medical Apocrypha, take care of your body, mind, and soul. And to boost the mind pattern, we have this new opportunity,
Right,
which
it's
is growing
the-
great guns.
The Aoscan mobile device, which is a digital body analyzer. It's just like a Star Trek tricorder. And Dr. Charles and I, just this past week, did a free webinar, which we have the recording. Is that posted anywhere?
No, we just got the recording
So
today,
that
I
should be
think.
posted
It will be
soon. And I urge you all to listen to that and watch it. It is a technology that was developed in Russia, by the space agency there, but with also American, German, Spanish, and other technologies mixed
Swiss
in with
too,
it.
maybe.
Swiss also mixed
Isn't it
in
like
with it.
based on Tesla?
It's based on Tesla equipment. It's based on frequencies. It's like having an electrocardiogram and electrocephalogram. But what it does is when you get the reading, and I wanted to bring the device and I left it there, but I'll bring it next week. But it basically goes through all the hundreds of thousands of frequencies of your body. It determines which ones are missing or low or damaged, and then it can send a signal to fix them and put your body back to where it belongs. It's absolutely amazing. Quite frankly, it's going to put a lot of doctors out of business or make their lives very easier. You don't even have to be physically present. It can read you from a distance with a picture.
And so we have the business opportunity if you want to get in on the ground floor of this. Now, they are having some website issues, which they're in the process of straightening out.
Because it's been so popular,
Yes.
and we have really filled a lot of
of
our people.
places.
We're still looking for a couple of few top level people,
Well, the individuals we also are
Yes.
taking as well now.
and we're taking individual, but it's really been gang. We have now people on 3 or 4 continents. It's been really an amazing, and I
It's
thank
been
all
taken
of you who have joined with us. And the opportunity is still there, and it will always be there. But between now and Christmas, it's really, really going to take off.
And also now remember we have started our self-healing groups again based
Right.
on our affirmations book. So this is off to a great start. September's class is closed. You can join October, November, December. Still we have spaces in those classes. You can join. We have on September 24th.
Will be the sexuality webinar with Dr. Carlos Jaramillo in Quito, Ecuador.
Yeah, that's based on this particular book, and we may throw in some things from the new book as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yes, and it will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Quito time. It will be in English and Spanish. You do have to register. Is that
Yes.
registration link on
Yes.
the website? Okay. And then we will be repeating this on October 11th for the Turkish audience.
That we don't have that link up yet.
And that will be in Turkish and English as well.
And these webinars have been very popular, especially for people who are stuck at home. And this is what we help you do. We help you take care of your body, your mind, and your soul, and your emotions. All of that put together, one nice package, so you can be self-responsible and you don't have to...
Like me.
Yeah, not like you. Yeah, they can be pretty like you, but more
I wake up like this, people. I don't even do
Can't
anything.
help
This
it.
is just me.
Yeah, even before the machine.
I mean, seriously, I can't even help it.
So it's
And
just
then,
what it is.
yeah, and they're so jealous of me, these people. I mean, and then when I finally hooked up to this AO device,
You don't just
hello.
bleep out of existence. You'd be so
it's
beautiful.
gonna be like I'll be levitating. Now, One other thing I need to remind you of, the Global Nights Symposium, which will be in Sterling Heights, Michigan, October 30th to November 1st. We're getting a lot of signups already. The good news is that the doctor who created this Aoscan mobile device, Dr. Lauren, will be there.
Oh, he is coming.
He is coming.
All right.
He is going to be knighted at the church on November 1st as well. He will be giving a lecture. Those of you who sign up, he will actually be bringing your device, personally handing it to you.
If you attend.
If you attend, of course. And guess what? I just found out yesterday that my friend Laura Eisenhower will be giving a Skype lecture. She obviously can't travel during this particular time.
And her great-grandfather?
Yes, and her great-grandfather, President Eisenhower, his personal limo is on permanent display at the conference
Pretty
area.
cool.
So she's very excited about that. I will take a picture.
And we wanted her actually in the car with the picture, but she can't because of the pandemic.
Her children are moving back, and there's a lot of issues going on there. But she's very excited to speak to the audience. I also have, I'm waiting for a response from Dr. Michael Sala, who is head of exopolitics. You may know about him, and the Secret Space Program, and he is maybe giving a lecture as well. And Steven Seagal, my friend Steven Seagal, also will be giving. And they even have one of the people that I know, Princess Nakamura from Japan, may also be giving a lecture. It's very, very exciting, and you need to be there.
Yeah, so...
Register. The registration is on our site.
Yes. So we have lots of things going on. As you know, be sure you get your memberships, expansions.com, less than $1 a day, and you can stay in contact with us on a daily basis. Get your books. We have lots of things for your mind. And remember, yes, we do have some books on Kindle, but all it takes is a flick of the switch and it's gone. So you really need, if you like the books, get them for your personal library because these are timeless. And people who read them one time, they say they can't put them down because they go back and they go back and they get more and more because they grow, and the information, which is written purposefully to grow with you, they get more out of it each and every time. So we look forward to seeing you on our blogs, at our events, our webinars. There's so much going on for you to be in control of you. So even though the world is crazy right now, you can still be self-responsible and not allow it to affect you.
And also a special Happy New Year to our Jewish viewers. It's their Jewish New Year.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.